Vulture, welcome back. Here we are with video number 6 of Convoluted Universe, Book 1 by Dolores Cannon, video number 6. I do this because when I upload it, it's easier to keep track of the accumulated videos without having to listen to the whole thing. So, video 6, book 2, book 1. This is chapter 12, the energy and the assistance. So Cannon's assumptions about linear reincarnation were changed by putting these subjects into regression. The following is information that she felt challenged her ideas about reincarnation. So by linear reincarnation, I think if I remember correctly, she means your past lives are chronologically past rather than you jumping around in time. So she received this information in small bits over many years, so she had to digest it as time passed, and then kind of waiting for the right time to put it all together for the public to understand, and people were becoming more receptive, and she felt it was time. She was told that answers were coming through subjects and that it would be a collective, and that they considered themselves these different lives coexisted. We're not linear in time and space. We simply coexist. So she was told she needed to define existence. They said that we are. So I'm just telling you what she was told. I'm not pretending I understand it. But time and space, past, present, and future, the separation of souls and spirits and people, we are. You don't need to identify as individuals, that all memories of all people are shared in the subconscious, and there really is no such thing as past lives. So that's, oh wait, wrong book. That's complicated. So let's see here what she elaborated on this. There could be memories of past lives, nothing more than memories that are shared because of the fact that you're connected, each and every one of you, together in your inner plane awareness. This means your multiple past lives. The memory of one of you is shared by each and every one of you. You can remember each other's thoughts on a very deep level, and so you may find that your past life is indeed quite accurately called a memory of one who has lived that existence. We would say there is no such thing as past lives, for from our point of view, all has been, all is, and all shall be simultaneously. As we have no concept of time, each of you has already been each other and are being each other in your future. Yeah. We know this is not very clear to you at this time. However, each of you will be given information in your near future in which each of you will be challenged to examine this concept. That is, the past and present are simultaneous with the future. This conversation was left as, you don't get it, we don't expect you to get it, just sit with it and kind of digest it. Okay, where was I here? So when you look at past lives, you're just narrowing your focus to one life. And it's like following the notes of certain instruments throughout a symphony. It's all playing at the same time, but you can focus on the oboe or you can listen to the whole orchestra. So it has to do with focusing in on a certain vibration of energy that brings an understanding and enlightenment. You can review a life that has not yet occurred. Okay. And you can regress to a future life because there is no future. It's all the same time. It's not linear. So you can be regressed, but that doesn't mean you're going chronologically in time. So polarization is a law of the physical world, but it's not part of the spiritual world. Time is more like a spiral than a line, and free will exists because the physical world is polarized. So let's see if this passage that I think is important even explains any of that. Okay, free will simply evolved from the fact that there are polarities in the physical world. That makes sense, this way or that way. Time is, however, not polarized. There is no plus time and no minus time. There is simply an idea of what is now and what is then, which is, even as we speak, changing from that which is now to that which is then. So how could there be a now? Oh my God. Time never stands still, so automatically the concept of now is simply thrown out the window. Now is instantly yesterday or the past. The minute you realize that now is a thought, it has already become the past and is no longer the now. So there is no need to worry about now. You are always living in the future, if you so choose. Yikes. So her question was, so how do we balance the masculine and the feminine? This is a great question because this is an issue that seems to come up in the cards all the time. That imbalance between the yin and the yang, the masculine and the feminine. And the answer is that it's not right or wrong to be more of one or to be equal. That's not even the issue. Just what is appropriate, and this depends on whichever particular lesson you're supposed to be focusing. Harmonizing is good, but the exact middle of the road is not necessarily the most desirable place to be. Depends on the situation. And then they said something really interesting. Homosexuality is just a question of energy. People need to chill about this. It's just about energy. The polarity of a soul is more female energy in a homosexual man. It's more male energy in a homosexual woman. It's imprinted as personality on the soul that was originally created, and it's not something that should even be an issue. Past lives can affect how this energy is expressed, but it doesn't determine, past lives don't determine your gender at birth. Your gender at birth is determined as a choice before you're born to learn whatever lessons it is you're looking for. So you may choose to incarnate as gay to learn things. And you may even not make that choice, that it might actually be a necessity. So there's an aura of energy around the earth that's made of all actions, thoughts, feelings, and you can tap into that for information. This band, oh my God, my neighbors. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'll try not to listen. This band of energy contains the past, the present, and the future. You can tap into it and bring the energy down, and the energy is processed from this higher to a lower level. It's never lost. Everything is recorded and stored. And if the earth is destroyed, they would be redirecting the energy to another time and plane. It will never be lost. The soul is the machinery, the spark, the fragment of one soul. At creation, we splintered off to experience life as separate identities, which is the biblical fall. And knowledge was lost, consciousness turned down towards the earth, and it was a fall of consciousness, is a metaphor. There's no evil present at the fall. That's just a story. It's just attention shifting from high to lower vibration. Got nothing to do with right and wrong, sin or not sin. We lost sight of those of who we were, who we are, and we're wandering. The fall is a forgetting of our true identity, the lowering of our consciousness, that all are part of the whole. We forgot we're one. The splintering was a conscious act by one soul to have more diverse experience. In order to fully understand all that is, capital letters. We're trying to understand all that is. At death, some souls need to erase mistakes that they've made that took them farther from the one. It's a redirecting. Some people just some souls become more enlightened more quickly. A regressed soul can choose to inhabit a body again if it's appropriate. You don't have to. Oftentimes encouraged to, because it's worth the effort. Each of us is a part of God on an information gathering journey. The goal is to reunite and share the experience. We each are God. We're each a part of the source. There are light beings who assist us, and we bring the energy, speaking as a light being, because this is this entity speaking through the subject. We bring the energy that you most need and help balance your energy. There's no singular identity for these light beings. They refer to themselves as we. They're part of us and not part of us. Our guides are our higher selves, and as individuals, we are isolated from our whole self. These beings are multidimensional on many different levels of awareness at the same time. These beings have always been multi-aware beings of assistance. So what this is saying is that these are not dead humans that are helping us. There are dead humans who help us, but there's also these guides that have always been spiritual entities who their job is to help us. It's like a service industry. I thought that was funny. We call them angels. They could say that they are a part of an angel. We are drawn, this is what they're saying, we are drawn by your energy deficit because we have a surplus. Opposites attract. Universal law. Universe reacts by sending them to help. Like the body's immune system responds to an area of need to heal a disharmony. All living things have energy, and it's just different levels of awareness. All of creation is aware, every rock, every plant, every animal. So these beings had questions for the subject. They wanted to know about gender awareness. They don't have a sexual identity. They are, I guess, androgynous, and they were curious about our choosing sides. Why do we confine ourselves to one gender? I thought that was an interesting question. Because confining ourselves to one gender creates a schism in your identity. Something for people to, I think Ron DeSantis needs to hear this. And the answer is it's just a part of our physical identity, of course. It's, when you're born, right? And sometimes they're wrong. Keep that in mind. The question that they ask is says that this identification is limiting. When you identify a baby, blue balloons, pink balloons, it's limiting. And they've never been in bodies because their electromagnetic energy is not conducive to the physical state. They're a completely different kind of being. We are from the givers of truth, the Legion of Light, the archangels, or at least some archangels. They have many specialties, and these ones create a conducive atmosphere of energy for us here on Earth. They observe too much emphasis on gender identity. And they said, just to remember that your body is simply a tool and that soul energy is ungendered. It's balanced. We are distracted by our physical form. Well, I think we know that. The spiritual nature of our existence is distracted. Your true identity is the energy inside of you, not your physical being. We make way too much of a big deal about the whole male-female thing. No kidding. For example, they said, look at how men are afraid of having male friends. Look at how men and women are afraid to be friends. It's just insanity. And as you achieve a higher plane, that male-female distinction becomes less important. It exists for procreation. It doesn't exist for self-identity. I thought that was a very important distinction. These beings can't incarnate because of their electromagnetic vibration. It's got to do with physics. It's got to do with quantum physics. We are too slow or dense. Well, some of us certainly are. Okay, 398. Let me see what this is. We are at a different vibration, possibly somewhat removed from your own. This is them saying this. However, this does not make us superior. In God's kingdom, there are no superiors and inferiors. There are simply those who exist in their appropriate form and space and who are simply doing that which is to be done. There is no concept of better than or less than. This is a particularly human concept. So they are ascending and evolving. They're not perfect. A perfect being would vibrate so highly that they would explode and vaporize and not manifest. They just exist on a higher level than we do, and they're sharing their knowledge and guiding us. Then the beings ask the question to explain fairness. How can justice be flexible? That's such a good question. And the answer was that fairness depends on your point of view, and therefore it's selfish and dynamic. And we've decided what is fair is good and from God, but culture and society interferes. So part of the problem is our sense of being individual and not seeing that we are all one. And when you're depressed, this is little tidbits of information. When you're depressed, your vibratory level goes down. Then they talked about multiple personalities. I thought this was really interesting. Multiple personalities don't necessarily indicate a sign of mental illness. They're prevalent in all societies and all animals and people, and they're seen as aspects of your greater self. The facets of your total personality in health are in harmony, and people who have a heavy load of negative karma, trauma, may seem multiple. They're just not as cohesive at the time. They might look like splits of the same personality. It's an escape and a denial of the trauma. And the spirit may draw on recent past lives to try to cope with what's going on. Psychiatrists have not yet figured out how to reunite splintered parts of a whole. The person could turn this around by working for affirmative karma. So that would be one treatment for what would be called multiple personality, or what they call dissociative personality disorder, would be to treat it from a spiritual level. You know how popular that notion would be. Twins are two spirits that are closely related genetically and often psychically, but they're not a split soul. That's interesting. But they resonate in a similar vibratory level. Even when they're separated, and that makes them special, and it's why so many will make same choices. Like there's a great documentary, I think it's on Netflix, about triplets, 3 brothers who were separated at birth. Oh my God, they married women with the same name, and they owned the same kind of car when they were finally reunited. Really interesting. So then she asked them about the return of Christ. Very interesting stuff here. So Jesus was a real person who has just been, blown out of proportion. But a person who was balanced, who had half male, half female energy. And it was integrated. And this is the part I love. Stop waiting for the second coming. Jesus is already here. Jesus is in every single one of us. That's the reincarnation of Jesus, the second coming. The real second coming will be when humanity unites. It has nothing to do with Christ coming back on a cloud. When humans all reunite. Spirits say that they have trouble with the teachings of churches on Jesus' second coming. He's not coming back as one person to be worshipped. That whole fallacy is misleading and not truthful. The real truth is that Jesus is inside of each of us. God is inside of each of us. We are inside of each of us. We are one. The Shroud of Turin is real, which really irritates me. I was in Turin. We were outside the church where it's shown like a museum situation. But they wanted so much money to go in and look at it. I thought, oh, come on, I'm not that desperate to see it. I've seen pictures of it. That's good enough. Instead, we went to the Archaeological Museum in Turin, which has the best Egyptology outside of Cairo. And if you ever, you know, have the good fortune to be able to go anywhere, go to Turnino and see the Museo Archeologico in Turin. Unbelievable Egyptian collection. I think there's like 5 stories of nothing but Egyptology. Anyway, it's not a miracle. It's just radiated, imprinted energy. Statues that cry, it's a transfer of energy, of awareness, the manifestation of awareness. We're all creators. It's what they're saying is it starts in people's emotions, their heads, their thoughts, their emotions, and goes outwards. So when we join together in prayer and meditation and intent, magnifies the power. So listen to yourself more. Have faith in yourself more was their advice. The more you learn, the more you find you have to learn. That's true. Chapter 13, the use and manipulation of the energy force. This is a 1989 session done with a woman named Beverly, and when she was in trance, she saw herself looking down on the earth in a grid. She could see the lines like waves on the earth, and all the planets and stars were sitting in this grid, and the earth and planets was like a live movement. There was an energy about all of it. Like those weird, I didn't know how to write this, like plastic boxes of water. Those weird rectangular boxes of thin sandwiched plastic. And there's colored stuff in the middle and it moves like waves. That's what she saw when she looked down on the planets. Its movement feeds everything in it and it prevents stagnation. This is an energy of the universe. It's like an air that's surrounding the earth, that is the earth breathing, and without it we would not exist. It's not actually like we think of as energy, as active and alive, but it's moving and it's all an undirected force. It's also directable, but it's undirectable as it moves around, and it goes into everything. So this is kind of this Beverly is giving this description, and she stumbles over herself sometimes and it doesn't make sense sometimes, but just imagine all this energy. That's what she saw. And it responds to humans. The energy is humans. It manifests as humans. So we can direct our inner energy outward, but we need to know how. We need to tune in internally to increase our levels of consciousness. Negative energy is misdirected by a number of people, and it can take on a life of its own. And then in parentheses, I wrote MAGA, hate. That's what they're saying. So we can change this by sending out positive energy in groups. We can tune into the higher consciousness. This is hard and it needs lots of practice, and we've tried some in the past. I've been negligent lately about suggesting group meditations, but I've been very distracted. So, there you go. So we can focus our energy as groups and redirect the positive, which I'm going to try to be more aware of. So we need to learn that we have it all now, that no one thing is better than another, that we need to be aware that everything is everything is as good as everything else. It's kind of a Zen thing they're talking about. We don't need to learn how to get what we want because it's all what we want. Now, I put a question mark there because I'm not entirely sure, but that's what she was told. Before we can pull what we want into our lives, we must increase our awareness that it doesn't make any difference. In other words, we're too busy judging, and we should just start looking for the good stuff, the vibes. It takes money to make money. It takes accepting the all that is to get the all that is. We need to be not attached to the outcome. And The other thing is we can't live anyone else's life for them. We can be a role model, but all of us alone will naturally evolve upward. So we can make right decisions for ourselves, putting it into, for example, a political context. We can vote, we can contact our representatives, we can petition, we can demonstrate, but ultimately we need to live our lives in love, and that eventually, naturally will evolve upward to a higher vibratory level for the whole planet. Meanwhile, things will happen that, you know, but we have to focus on the important part. So after death, the soul can choose to remain individualized as a personality. You can still stay you. It's up to you. It's what you want to do. Our belief system limits the understanding of all of this. You can't handle it until you're ready for it, but you will eventually be ready. And I would say that us discussing this means we're ready to think about it. We may not understand. I don't understand. But the very fact of reading it, hearing it, thinking about it, that's progress. Each of us is a part of the whole and aspects of each other. Your energy, you're in energy, we're all energy. You perceive the physical form because you see the energy. Your form is determined by your energy. So Brenda, the subject, describes the energy she sees. She's seeing like this entity she's speaking with. She sees light and fog and color and atoms. Our earthly understanding is so limited. It's really hard for us to grasp this. It's as if scientists saw one hair on the head of an actor in one frame of a movie and had to figure out the entire plot. I mean, we're just so limited. Scientists have finally made the connection between physics, the particle, and ancient mysticism, the metaphysics. So we're getting there. When science reaches its peak, everyone will be mystics. All areas have value. Buddhism, witchcraft, the occult, they're not dark. They all have value. It depends on where you are, how they resonate for you. And I hate to say this because there's nothing that drives me crazier than 2 missionaries at the door. But that's important for them. That's where they are. That's their belief system. It's not up to us. I hate to say it. I'm the biggest criminal here. It's not up to us to judge. It's up to us to try to find our own path. So we learn how to be in harmony with the whole, and it won't need. We won't need medicine. And this used to be known. In fact, Nostradamus talked about that a lot in the books we did. So Atlantis ended up drifting because of the cataclysms, the geological cataclysms that went on. Drifted to South America, Tibet, India, Sri Lanka, and China. They mentioned that. It's apropos of nothing right now. Meditation can direct your life into a time stream that you desire to happen. Energy equals vibrations. Light equals energy equals vibrations. Sound equals vibrations. Thought equals energy equals vibrations. And you can affect the future with your thoughts. You can focus thoughts from your solar plexus and out to your aura, or entering the top of your head into your solar plexus. And that exchange of energy may be necessary to receive something or to send something out. And we have to work on that as individuals. During the day, you can protect yourself by imagining an aura around you as good, as white light. You just 2 seconds ask for protection. There's a lot of superstition and stupid nonsense out there. It's not that there aren't energies that are detrimental, but you don't have to be vulnerable to them, and worrying about it is pointless. Just, get on with the job you have. And in sleep, your subconscious protects you. And if your subconscious can protect you when you're asleep, certainly you'll be safe when you're awake. Neutral forces are everywhere. They have no moral right or wrong. It's like lightning. Lightning can be good or it can be bad. It just depends on your sense of your perspective. So when you send out thoughts for something to happen, then you feel discouraged. Wait a second here. Oh, so it's all about sending out positive thoughts. If you want something good to happen, you need to meditate and visualize, basically. So you can open your mind to healing the energy around you, and that's really how you heal. But people so much get misled by this new age concept that you make yourself sick and you can make yourself better. It may not be within your control because, you're born with genetics and you experience a lifetime of exposure to external things that affect your energy. And you can certainly work on that, but it's important not to judge yourself. And I see so much of that, people blaming themselves, and that you can boost your energy and you can boost your health by working on the energy around you. But she said it's like continually filling the leaky bucket. And if you didn't start doing that the day you were born, well. So death is necessary to progress. Without death, we would stagnate. And your maximum lifetime is determined in your DNA, and it's different for everybody. We're supposed to learn how to manipulate these energies, but we don't learn that. And it's not really our fault. It's the context of our culture. Everything you encounter that you manifest, and you can misuse energy. You get what you ask for, and I'm afraid I'm guilty of this. If you're constantly saying life sucks, then it will. Uh-oh. Illness is dis-ease. It's a lack of harmony. So we can manifest, but often what we say and what we really think are at odds, which is often why we're not successful in manifesting what we want. That pile of $1 million, you can talk about it all you want, but if you don't really believe it, Anyway, we're all on the same journey with different paths, but they will converge. So just get on with it. Chapter 14, the transformation of the human body. So in 1994, she started to get the first stories from subjects about DNA changes. She regressed a guy from Italy, and he saw a light in the sky, and he pulled over, and then he remembered nothing. So he came to her because of that, and under trance, he and his girlfriend saw the light, and they thought, oh my God, there's a plane crashing. It was that dramatic. And when they actually got closer, they saw a huge UFO, and it opened a door on the bottom, and it hit them with a beam of light. And he came to on a table in what he thought was an emergency room or something, an operating room. And this being of light came up to him and embraced him, and he felt safe and happy in an exchange of energy. Cannon asked, could she speak with the light being? And the question that she asked this being was, why doesn't Luigi remember this UFO encounter? And the answer was, he will remember it when the time is right. It's too early now. He's not ready. She was told that Luigi, the guy, and the being have known each other for 600 years. Their souls have followed each other for centuries, that he will have an important role, that there are changes happening to the earth and he is a part of it, that the continents will move. Okay, so don't let this freak you out. The continents will move, there will be water all over, and this makes this being sad because humans are doing too many dirty, stupid things, and it will be the end of an era, but it won't be the end of the world. Might be the end of most of us, but it won't be the end of the world. And it's really detrimental to obsess, like, oh my God, you know, it's pointless. So the end of an era, okay, the entities are trying to slow all of this down. I mean, it could be reversed. And some people, like this Italian guy, Luigi, are being taught how to save people. Because some people need to be saved so that the population can continue. They predicted 2020, roughly, would be the time. I don't know, because remember, this is in the 90s that this has all happened. And he sees a toxic gas cloud after an explosion and people running away from it. Certain selected people will be taken on board crafts. They would live aboard them and then would be brought back and would start over. This has actually happened in human history before. There's a union of intergalactic entities that are joined together, a council to save the planet. We will evolve, and we won't be physical anymore. We will not be solid anymore. We'll be semi-physical with fewer physical needs. And he describes reproduction by two balls of energy joining together. That's interesting. We'll still have houses and cities, but they'll be less physical and more like a mind thing. This is Luigi talking, this entity talking through him. And beings are working on our double helix DNA, and it's going to eventually have 12 strands, which will hugely increase our energy level. And they've been doing this starting years ago, millions of years ago. They've been working on this. And they did genetic experiments, and this is why humans are really limited right now. We don't have enough DNA to manage the energy. Some will have 6 and some will have 12, and those who are prepared this way will be taken aboard, and UFOs are letting themselves be seen more now to get us used to the idea, to desensitize us. And Luigi remembered returning to the car and crying and being happy, and that was the end of that session. Then in another case, a guy in a trance saw pigs in his yard and realized, oh, well, they're not really pigs. This is a cover memory. He sees a convex silver disc and says it's about 15 years ago that this happened to him. He remembers being ready for bed and floating through the ceiling and floating on a beam of light, like through the ceiling, his whole body, and floating on a beam of light and into a white sparkly area where there was a medical exam table, and he knows he was there for an annual checkup, and that beings were scanning him with their eyes. He was taken to a domed auditorium-like area with glowing crystals in the center, which was the power for the ship, which is so interesting because I just read a book about it today, and it was the same, different people, different time, same description. So he's taken to another room and put in a storage device against a wall, strapped in, standing up, like a glass thing, and it was infused with light energy from above, and he felt like he was watching himself, and this infusion of energy was at the molecular area, molecular level, and it increased his DNA, and it transforms the body to light to reach the Christ consciousness. Whoa, so we're combining genetics and spirituality. It's very interesting. So he was shown DNA coils splitting. He now has 6, and he's encouraged to meditate every hour. Oh my God. And the DNA needs him to be able to access the light within him. So he is shown that he is dedicated to doing the work to achieve his purpose to stay on the spiritual path. And I guess that kind of dedication is what it takes. He wants to be of service and will increase to 12 DNA strands to reach the 5th dimensional state. So he has to do his part to prevent atrophy of the genetic situation. The ET tech helps speed up what would be a much slower process. This is being done to all who incarnated at this time to help humans evolve a greater state of consciousness, and it will happen to a lesser degree even to those who don't know that they are spirit. So everybody is going to be affected by this, but some people more than others because specifically that's why they came. The others, the ones that are really, they'll go on board, and he's told the ETs can separate etheric and physical bodies and give the etheric body greater light and use mind power, and it makes the body lighter. The person will eat less and less. Oh, that's the etheric diet. And the body gets healthier too, and it increases mental power. You'll be able to rebalance your body by yourself more, and it will increase our lifespan. And this light chamber that he remembers changes the DNA, but it decreases disease and increases our resistance to microorganisms. And it helps him to let go of judgments, feelings of lack, let go of the material world, to get security from the metaphysical and the spiritual world instead. A person has to do their part with the ET technology, and they need the willingness to progress spiritually, and it's free will. It's up to us. This will be done until the critical mass of people is achieved and the earth is in a higher state of consciousness, and it will affect others, and it will spread because of the oneness. So every soul will decide to participate in it or not. Many will not. Oh, so depressing. So we'll leave our bodies and go to another planet to continue the lessons. The ones who choose not to participate in this they'll die, and their souls will reincarnate elsewhere in another Earth-like planet and continue this whole rigmarole. Those of us who choose to try to make the effort, which is just really a lot, they'll be here to try to bring the earth back to a higher situation. The earth will become a higher school of the fifth dimension, and the left behind thing from the Bible, he says you get left behind for growth. You incarnate with a timetable for your awakening, and this will be triggered by planetary events. I don't know, you see the tsunami wave coming in, you go, oh God, maybe I should have meditated more. It may be just contact with certain people or geophysical calamities like hurricanes and stuff. Some get awakened by their guides. So there are catalysts, and they're global, geophysical, and spiritual. The fifth dimension is the birth and the death of a cycle. It's not needed, the whole physical thing we're going through, birth, death, it's not needed by the fifth dimension. The consciousness increases so high. ETs are also trying to learn to heal and prevent earth diseases. They're working on our immunological system. As the soul increases its transformation, we become more immune to things. We'll live a very long time, no matter how high the individual is. It can always go higher. It can always evolve more. Many scientists associated with the U.S. government, they know about this. They know about these DNA things, and they're afraid to share it with their peers for fear of ridicule. And as people evolve and increase their vibration, they're less scared of ETs and more aware of universal oneness. Fear is often created just by a lack of understanding. Time doesn't exist. We're not controlled by some great force. God is the name that we've given for the ultimate power that goes beyond the galaxies. We can't conceive of it. Our brains can't wrap around all this. We're hearing these words right now from the book. We're more or less digesting them and just sit with it and process it. God is part of everyone. We are part of each other. We're all part of the whole. Individual souls go out as sparks from the source. They gather information and experience, and they return. We are all God. We are not divided. The human brain doesn't have the circuitry to understand this. So if your head hurts too, it's okay. We will evolve in understanding eventually, and we'll never know it all. So the brain's been upgraded before. We get different wiring and upgrading on a genetic level. Some children have something new that has never been seen before. We can tell that. It was put in us originally when we were created, and it failed twice. We failed twice, and it seems to be taking hold now, and it's because of the intervention of ETs. This happened in prehistory. Much of our history is wrong, intentionally wrong, and there's much more of it than we've ever been told. Something unexpected happened in our planning. We were developing wrong, and they had to make changes in prehistory. The Bible is incorrect. Sorry, you guys, but this is what the book says. The races did not go in different directions. We will not know the true story with the writings that we have right now, because the access that we have to information right now is completely incorrect. Information has been taken away and hidden from us, deliberately lost, buried. Fragments have been found, and we will work with the fragments, and they're hidden in the brains of a few people. So Cannon had to put all this together from all different sources. A genetic experiment was done that didn't work properly, and it made confusion, the Tower of Babel. The mind fragmented. We didn't comprehend properly. They had to start again. So we're reaching that same point now, and it looks like we can do it now. The possibility exists. We're looking in an unbalanced way in the wrong direction with our technology. The spiritual is not emphasized enough. Religion doesn't count. The next sentence, religion is wrong. Spirituality is everything, and there's a difference. Religion about control, spirituality about evolution. So it's balanced wrong right now, and the planet is out of balance, and these ETs have triggered our brains to try again, but we have to do our part. We have to learn our lessons. We have to make the effort. There are things in the brain that doctors don't know and can't see. And then there's, of course, junk DNA. It's sort of like circuitry. The planet is in a desperate state right now. It's unstable. It's unbalanced. People are walking around with all the wrong ideas. And there's an actual literal plasma vortex that's influencing all that. Right now, there's an electromagnetic stimulation that's reordering the circuitry of the brain. And we can find corroboration in the history of the pyramids. Egypt knew all about this. They had a different system of bringing the energy out. And what they were able to do is rudimentary compared to what we could do today. They had to upgrade with the help of ETs, this genetic manipulation. The imbalance surrounding the planet is because of our thinking and our misuse of the environment. We're out of balance. We've destroyed knowledge that we had. We've lost a lot. So something is being done, she was told, in laboratories in Virginia, new technology to address some of this. I find that scary. So there's a new session here, and the information on our ignorance is being given to us. The stuff we don't know is being given to us, and we're close to part of our reality. We're closed off to part of our reality out of fear and ignorance, and our true history and our genetics can be understood now if we're open to it and we make the effort. Changes in DNA have happened to let some bodies function in a more enhanced way to survive and resist environmental changes, to tolerate the conditions on other planets, so they can go to other planets, so the souls can survive to come back here, to participate in the spiritual evolution off the earth while the earth is in a mess. Our bodies have already been changed by the environment, environmental changes. We've been adapting to the chemicals and the energy. So we're programmed at creation to adapt. It's part of what we bring with us. The environment is poisoning us and because we poisoned it, right? And it's forcing us to adapt. And if the environment improved, our bodies would return to their original state. Some ETs have human-like characteristics, and they have already done this. We will be like them. There are ETs that are humanoid and look like us, but they're more spiritual, and they're amongst us. All people today are having environmental changes to their immune systems. There are also intentional genetic manipulations going on, and these were part of a harvest of generations ago. And, you know, all these stories of abductions, they sometimes happened at the time of conception or in utero, and then they passed on in reproduction, and each generation is slightly different. Not noticeable to others, but you could see it if you compared 10 generations ago, which is hard to do, right? So then there's a session with a woman named Marie who had been at an institute in Virginia for out-of-body travel and remote viewing and other mind things, and suddenly was seeing more than was usually there around her. And she had a vast and weird experience of more going on. She was seeing something with her subconscious, and under trance, she's walking through a hole, a portal, into a vast room, and realizes that 3D is false, that there is more. So her regression actually wasn't a life regression at all. So Maria is distressed and trying to describe what she sees as an overlay on reality, and she's being drawn out of the physical, and she said that this other environment is beautiful. She describes sleeping in a tiny room like a box with headphones and listening to vibrations and meeting smart beings and feeling love, and the vibrations are helping to unblock her, and she's able to see these other dimensions. So they're working on her to help her to see it. She has no fear of a white light that she sees. She sees a deep blue shimmery space being from a star. This was in her reforming her system for the higher work and changing her at a cellular level. Radiation from the core of the earth is put in the body for wrong reasons, and this blue space being will prevent that and protect it. So we're all being affected, and she's been selected for whatever reason to try to mitigate that change from radiation. There's another race of beings that want to take our genetic material from whatever person, whatever reason. The radiation will be the result of war. So she's seeing, they're taking her genetic material. They're trying to protect her with this blue being, star being. She's being told that radiation is coming. She sees it as coming from war. Other people have seen it as a gassy cloud coming from not war. But there are parallel universes based on free will choices, which is why predicting the future is often a fool's game, because it depends on too many free will choices. But we can certainly read the potential energies. The blue being and loving energy will protect her, but she has to accept it into herself, and we all can. Not all people will. You have to connect to your heart. So this is talking about doing the work of meditating and contemplating. So Marie has been doing some strange writing, and she's like, what is this? And it's information from a higher source that will change her, and she's been told that this strange automatic writing she's been doing is symbols, and that there's information hidden in the pattern of the symbols in the energy field. It's basically like a spoken language, but in symbolic form. And it includes mathematics, and it actually shows movements that activate the body. So each symbol has lights that can change you, or change her, she's told. So the next chapter, chapter 15, is the mechanical person. So in 2000, she did a session that seemed pretty typical. A woman was upset and didn't know why about having teeth pulled as a child. You know, she was having nightmares and stuff. And in a trance, she found herself drifting into a strange metallic planet that was hard, cool, but there was stone with dust. These are her impressions. Asymmetrical buildings with windows that were small like air holes. Lots of small mountains. She looked at her feet and saw that they were metallic and like technical kind of hooves. Her hands were like metal claws. She tells Canon, I walk like a machine to a lake I see close by. I walk like a robot. I look at my reflection in the water. I have eyes, but they're triangles with a flat base at the top. My eyes inside those triangles seem like jelly. My face is metallic dark gray, and I know that I have machinery inside me. There's nothing growing on this planet. Many secret things are happening underground, and she slides down a tube, and she says you decide for yourself and you slide down. We'll get to what that means. So there's manufacturing going on underground with metal. Fire, like welding, is going on. There's work tables that look like flesh people in protective clothing doing metal work, but also other metallic people like the Tin Man. There are no women. The men are very dark and have very light hair. The building has metallic workers, not just machines. They have emotions and feelings and a soul, but they divide and their souls are put. So it's a human whose soul has split and been put in a machine. This is bizarre stuff. And it involves a ceremony. So it's not just a random thing that happens. The creators have to give up a little of themselves, of their power, to enable these robot machines, and the machines are programmed that they can do basic things, but with a soul they're more sophisticated. They're not a complete human, they're not a complete machine, but they're a being that can think on its own. The robot may feel some slight connection to its human subject, but not sure. She's not sure, this woman in the session. They're prepared to face environments of different planets. This is why they're being created, for the different atmospheres and temperatures and stuff. They're heat proof. Their eyes are made for intense light. The people can't go, so they send these machines into these harsh environments. The machines automatically record the information wherever they're sent, like explorers, and their soul helps them to be able to let people know emotional stuff about the planet that would be pleasant or good. The drawback is they sometimes have feelings for other robots, but no outlets for their emotions to be expressed. I thought this was so weird. It's kind of cruel because the humans intentionally prevent them to have an ability to express any kind of emotion they may have in their soul, but they still feel it. So they feel sort of a phantom pain, and the humans kind of ridicule this. So they're not just machines, but they're not allowed to act on their feelings. It's very callous. It's like a movie where machines do evolve to have feelings, like a science fiction movie, but this is supposedly what she's remembering is true. The robots can make the inhabitants of other planets go into a trance because if they didn't do that, those inhabitants would be afraid of them. It reminds Dolores Cannon of the Greys, which are androids. But these are more biologically created, the Greys, and they do have some intelligence to do their tasks. they don't get physically tired, these machines, but they do feel emotionally tired with no outlet. The humans want control, and they don't care when the robots express needs because they aren't supposed to have needs. The humans are just ridiculing of them and their complaints. And then when the machine wears out, they recycle the soul into a new one. And the souls do feel a gender. The subject robot meets another robot, and they design an escape plan to walk away when they're on an exploration trip. They believe they could be together and have some sort of social exchange as a couple. They escape, but they're quickly found and they're ridiculed. And then they're smashed. They destroy them while the soul is still inside, and they're told by the humans, we'll show you how ridiculous you are. So they can feel humiliation of being powerless, and they do get melted down, but because the humans forget to remove the souls float off together. So it's kind of like a Shakespearean play or something. The subject's subconscious now says that the humiliation is the source of her obsession with tooth loss, which is so weird. It's such a weird story that you almost have to believe it, because how could you make something like this up? And it also gives her an increased need for freedom and independence as a human being today in this life. It shows that the robot soul is a spirit form, but it's still really part of an original soul. Emotional and physical issues do have their roots in previous lives. Soul splitting is kind of like a parallel universe situation. It's mind-boggling. Now we're on chapter 16, the God Source. A subject in trance is a woman, and she feels like she's a man in this trance in a farm field. Not a participant, but an observer. She says she feels uncomfortable, not a part of anything or any place that she sees. She's just sort of there. And Canon says, well, where are you from? And this woman says, as a man, says, well, I'm from the sun. I'm part of the light, which is why she feels just there. I have no body. I'm just consciousness that's part of the whole. And if you are part of it, it's not hot. It's a ball of light consciousness. The sun is not, we experience as heat and light, but it's a ball of light consciousness, and it's different from other stars. It's a pure ball of energy. And as we separate from the source, we do become separate entities. And she says that she, as an entity that's part of the sun, can go into the sun and doesn't get burned up. Sometimes we go out and we don't know why. She feels unpleasant when she leaves and not part of the whole. And when she's there, she feels we are it, is how she puts it. We leave to serve, to help others get back who don't know how. We leave the sun to go out as individuals, but we lose some knowledge of being part of the whole. We need to return to be energized, to go back and forth, to go to various planets, some very different from the Earth. We are sent to help the host, the consciousness, and it sends us telepathy, and I just know where to go, the telepathic communication, to go where they're required. And I think about being the form, and I become the form. I can go through birth or not to be someplace. Sometimes I have an agreement with the soul in a body, and we trade places as a walk-in. I am a soul. I am consciousness on earth. At home, I am one. This is what's coming out of this person under hypnosis. So he says we go to earth and go in, as a soul into a baby that needs me, and I can go and come at any stage of life in agreement with other souls. I leave the one, the sun, and take individual form or consciousness and go to help a soul. It's an agreement. Other souls can stay inside with me, and we're at the same time together at the same time. I serve. I can enter the body and I can accumulate karma, but eventually work it out and go back home to the sun. I can switch back and forth as the predominant soul, the helper, and it's always by choice, it's always an agreement, it's only when needed, and it may be experienced by the person as a longing to go home. So for example, there once was a scientist that experimented on animals. It was morally not right. The karma was very low, and it had to be worked out, and they were doing experiments on animals in Atlantis. And this all came from ego. He saw, oh, I can do it, and got all caught up in it. And eventually ended up going back into the sun. That's where he originally came from. So the more questions we ask, the more questions we have. Was the last part of the book. Just sort of ended abruptly. She was sort of trying to collate strange stories, and that was a strange story. So here's an entity coming through in a session that claims to be part of the sun. Whoa. So that's the end of the book. That's the end of The Convoluted Universe, Book 1 by Dolores Cannon. And I have to go to work. But depending, tomorrow, I don't want to make false promises, but depending, I may do the first chapter of The Convoluted Universe, Book 2. So I would like to, I want to. It kind of depends on what's going on around here. So thank you very much for watching. I'm very pleased with the reception these Dolores Cannon books have gotten. They're very interesting. Who knows? You know, I don't know. This first time I've read them. I think they're remarkable. And I'm not into science fiction, but they have that flavor of kind of spirituality meets science fiction. It's fascinating. If only a fraction of it is true, but they really resonate. So we'll read cards about it. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching, and I haven't answered any of the comments from my little rant yesterday, but thank you. Sorry I kind of lost it. I was very upset. Gotten a little bit more. It's okay. So thank you very much for watching, and I will be back. And in the meantime, slán go fóill and sláinte.